I've got the Velocore Black in 6X and 6S. Velocore. And I've also got the Velocore Plus 6S and 6X. Velocore Plus. How much different is the new Velocore Plus compared to the old Velocore? I'm hitting all these shafts on the Callaway AI Smoke Max. I've got the weight in the toe. I've got -1 neutral on the loft setting. And I have put a 7 gram weight in here instead of the standard 2 grams, so I've got a little bit more mass in the head. I just prefer the slightly heavier feel, and I find that it does spike up the ball speed a little bit more, so you've got a bit more mass going through the ball. Sometimes it can slow a person down, but more mass through the ball for me is much preferable. So the first difference we've got in these new shafts is this is last year's one. As you can see the shiny bit of it, it's shiny black. When we look at the new Velocore Plus, it's a matte finish, it's not as shiny, and it does look a bit cooler in the golf club. So my findings so far are quite interesting really. So this is the original 6S, just a stiff, and it's a delightful shaft. Hanging to the right hand side, I normally turn it over quite a bit, so it's quite nice to see that it does just hold to the right hand side a bit more. I do turn the odd one over too much. But I've chosen the 16th par 5 at Royal Troon to do this test on. It's quite a narrow fairway. This shaft feels good. This shaft feels solid. I've absolutely slapped that off the toe, so that will encourage a bit more draw spin. I'm in the left semi-rough. No, I'm wet. I'm in the pond. Happens to the best of us. All right, commit to the shot. Feel a new feeling. Bang the shot. Feel it. Through the ball. Oh, a little bit overturned. Stay dry. Oosh. Just getting over the river, but I did actually hit some fairways with it earlier. Now when I go into the Velocore Plus, the first thing I notice is that the shaft does feel a little bit heavier and it feels a tiny bit stiffer. Not as aggressively as going from a black to a black TR. When you go to the TR, you definitely feel a lot more stiffness. When we go to the Velocore Plus, I'm just feeling a little subtle difference. And by and large, it's quite delightfully different. We'll see what the difference is in the data, but it does feel just that little bit like firmer. Now I have sort of got used to the blue, the Velocore Plus Blue. I find the Velocore Plus Blue a little bit easier, and I'll do a comparison in another video. Right now, I just want to see how much difference there is from the old to the new, whether it's a big change, whether it's a subtle change, whether there's any change. Sometimes on a car, you know, they bring out a new Volkswagen Golf and it's the same as the last one, they've just changed the grille a little bit. But it's still the up-to-date version and you can still order it. But the old one, you can't, you can only buy them second-hand. Oh, it is so warm in the studio today. It's so warm in the studio today and I have to turn the fan off because it makes too much noise for the camera. So I am melting. Right, this is last year's 6X, so extra stiff. I am not swinging it as fast as normal. I pulled a muscle in my neck while I was sleeping and it still feels a bit stiff, but beware the injured golfer. And also I haven't trained as much as I did last year. I'm not as fast as I was last Christmas, for example. I'm missing a good 7 or 8 mile an hour speed. Shots I hit before recording, I wasn't hitting the X as good. Maybe I'm a little bit more fired up and I can actually get some speed into the ball. But if I grab this on the first tee with no warm up, it's a little bit harder to get going. But we're largely doing okay. Shaft's keeping up. Velocore technology is fantastic. We'll see how much better Velocore Plus is or isn't. Velocore Plus 6X. Not that one, that was thin. Nearly missed the damn golf ball. The tee is still in the floor. Oh, come on. Will not be including that shot in the data. Relax, relax, go. Relax. That's more like it. Go on, get in the fairway. Get in the fairway. Yeah, 1 foot in the fairway, which means it can then actually land and go. I can hit the 6X, but I have to put a lot more effort into it. I've been quite enjoying the blue 5X, if I'm honest, because I can relax, I can go, and it still keeps up me quite well. I definitely need to do that comparison. So I'm just flicking out a couple of iffy ones, because no one cares about them. So on the old shafts, I've got peak heights of, so the highest point the ball reaches is 112 against 128. The 128 is the X. Now normally in a stiffer shaft we get a lower flight, but for me on this one I'm getting a higher flight because the launch is higher. I'm leaving the face open. So because I'm not getting that 6X to activate, the face is more open, more lofted, the ball's going up higher because it's not closing down. With the Velocore Plus, I'm looking at 114 against 109. I actually get the extra stiff one just a little bit lower, which is what I would normally see. So maybe I put better swings on them, but I did alternate quite nicely through them. It also walked away, came back, walked away, came back. So I wasn't kind of like spicy, more spicy on one than another. But first thing to look at, we've got the Velocore Plus here. We've got the old ones there. The Velocore Plus is carrying further than the old one. I've got more carry and similar sort of dispersion. So the tightest one for me was the old black tightest dispersion. So variance 2 yards, variance 4 yards on the new one, but a little bit further up. Spin rates are lower on both of the new ones. So I got my highest ball speed out of the old 6X, and I actually got a little bit less ball speed out of the newer shafts. But even though I got slightly less ball speed, I got more output from the shaft because the spin rate stayed more tamed. That's quite interesting to see them stay quite consistent there, which is nice. Quite high launch. It launched higher when I've gone 6S to 6S. New one launches higher, spins less. So lower launch, higher spin, higher launch, lower spin means I get 291 against 295, 306 against 316. Landing in the rough, it will stop quicker. Dispersion rings are fairly similar. My biggest dispersion ring being the new 6X, and I think that 6X black for me is just too stiff. I'm trying too hard, I'm getting more variance. In the 6S, I've got a tighter ring and a better front to back yardage. All in all, they do behave in a similar way to each other. I'm seeing lower spin on the new ones and more consistent peak height. But there's my hot day sweaty version of the comparison between the old Velocore and the new Velocore Plus. I quite enjoyed it, to be fair, and I need to do the blue against the black, the blue Velocore Plus against the black Velocore Plus, because I find the blue just a little bit easier. But does that mean I get more spread?